It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And certainly, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, because now more than ever, folks, we've already learned that my brand of journalism and my level of honesty is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, the generational talent, and the most handsome face that runs the place. Fernando Uribe saying happy Monday, happy Halloween week. As you can see, we're all themed out here on the show. Again, Halloween's my favorite time of year, and we appreciate you tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard. Also on the Jersey First YouTube page. Again, it takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share. Make sure you subscribe to all our great content. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download it and take it with you anywhere at any time. Folks, again, we really appreciate you sharing our content and supporting us, again, on all of our social media platforms. Of course, check us out on LinkedIn as well. And also on Twitch. We'll have episodes running there also. So, again, we appreciate you tuning in here. This, the 28th of October, folks. Again, happy Halloween week. Listen, if you checked out my social media, I think you all know what I dressed up for this weekend. So much love in downtown Jersey City at the Zeppelin Beer Garden, along with the Ashford. I got to tell you, folks, I lost count with the amount of people that came up to me and actually said, hey, we love your costume. Yes, we're rooting for the 45th and soon to be 47th president, Donald Trump. So, again, a great, great costume there. A lot of great feedback. Even in a little ritzy hipster area of downtown Jersey City, people loved it, folks. Again, I mean, I lost count how many people came up to me and took pictures and were tagging me, going on Instagram Live. So, hey, folks, a little fun on Halloween doesn't hurt anybody. So, again, shout out to those great venues and establishments during this Halloween weekend. And, of course, hope you get to enjoy it as well. Folks, always remember, again, share our social media content. It's rising, and certainly it's up and coming, as they say. Great traffic every single week here on the broadcast. Folks, and I can't say enough how proud I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It is Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, live, obviously, on all the aforementioned social media platforms, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader. And also make sure you check out Bridging the Gap, obviously, with AJ Melillo and Stephen Rombolo. And, of course, every Monday night, check your local listings, of course. Brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night, live here on the Jersey First Television. Folks, you want to stick around? I got a special commentary and, of course, final thoughts. I do want to send a shout out to the Union City local PBA number 8. I got to partner with them this past weekend for their annual boot drive to benefit the American Cancer Society, and more specifically, my annual campaign, A Professor's Quest to Save Breasts, to benefit making strides against breast cancer. You'll be happy to know, since 2008, this fundraising effort has raised over $63,000 for the American Cancer Society. So once again, I do want to thank the brave men and women of the Union City local PBA number 8 for, again, just partnering with me for doing great things all Saturday long. Folks, you also want to stick around for final thoughts. Again, it's Halloween week. So because it's Halloween, let's talk about some clowns. And folks, when it comes to clowns in New Jersey media, let's be honest, Tom Moran and Max Pizarro come to mind. I'll tell you why, folks. Sometimes, they want to complain about bad comedy. Well, bad comedy is trying to make you believe that they're actually journalists. More on them during final thoughts. You want to stick around for that for sure, folks. Folks, I can't say enough here. Again, like, comment, and share on the program. Again, happy Halloween week. We're all decked out here for Halloween, folks, here on the program. Hopefully, please party responsibly later this Thursday for Halloween. Folks, 8 days to go. And certainly it's a very volatile, tribal, antagonistic election season. Folks, got to see over the weekend. I got to vote early, as I'm sure many of you did as well. Mail-in ballots, obviously, were mailed out weeks ago. Folks, we're trying to get people engaged. We're getting people to vote. We don't want to disenfranchise anybody. And it's important to sort of look at data and look why this election cycle is really interesting. So who better to break it down than, folks, what I would argue is the GOAT of New Jersey journalism. He is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe. And, contrary and despite what some people may think, he's a big fan of the show. And I'm glad that he is. My good friend, David Wildstein. David, how are you?
I'm well, Fernando. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, David.
Good.
Again, folks, check out jerseygold.com for the best content, reporting, and up-to-the-minute news. If you don't mind, maybe just a little bit. I can hear that people there. I'm not sure. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, sorry about that. Folks, again, make sure you follow David on Twitter. And of course, make sure you also follow the New Jersey Globe. David, good to see you. How are you?
Well, just like everybody else we know, we're just, we're up all the time monitoring elections and trying to figure out what's going on and how to best bring late information to voters.
All right, let's dive into that. One of the big races, certainly, that's under considerable discussion, not just in New Jersey, but really nationally, is the 7th congressional district between the incumbent freshman, Jonathan Jr., and his Democrat challenger, Sue Altman. A lot's been made about Tom Kaine, how successful he is, whether he does well in debate, not very warm with the press. And the other side, Sue Altman, again, some radical views that she's held. And to the best of my knowledge, she hasn't been endorsed by the governor or by the Democratic chair, Leroy Jones. So, how do you see this race?
Well, first of all, Phil Murphy was campaigning with her this weekend. Yeah, so he's there and he's been helping, and Leroy Jones has been with her. I'd say since last winter when the primary went away and she cleared the field. So she's getting support from the state party. It's the national party that I think frustrated her. And now they just came in last week and they're doing about $1 million a week on television. This race is close. I mean, we've had some independent polls. We've had one independent poll, some private polls, some polling numbers that I've seen that have been shared with me. And it's close. You don't know how to call this yet. And you see all sorts of fascinating data points. And the one that's in my head, mostly right now is I'm looking at the first 2 days of early voting data, and Republicans and Democrats are just about even in the 7th district. It's a Republican edge in voter registration. Joe Biden won that district by 4 points. And we saw a signal poll, a Republican poll this weekend that shows it sort of confirms what everybody knows, and that is that Kamala Harris is underperforming Joe Biden's numbers all across the board. And Kaine won that district by 3, while Biden won it by 4. It's a pretty big swing. And if Harris is closer, or if Trump wins that district, I think that's going to make a big difference on where this election goes.
Fair enough. And folks, again, if you just joined us live right now, it's 6:11 here on the East Coast. My guest is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, joins us here live on Real Talk. David, again, you said it perfectly. It's a very close race. I'm really happy to see early voting. Again, I'm someone that, like you, wants to get people involved and wants to see people voting. Obviously, we're not normally, election day, holiday. I know you mentioned here during presidential election years, will be a holiday. But in general, are positives to voting. There's still some skepticism about mail-in ballot. What are you hearing about those styles in Jersey?
Well, first of all, you're right. It's great for democracy when you see lines everywhere. And I mean, in Republican parts of New Jersey, out in Western New Jersey, people are lining up, and in Democratic towns, they're lining up. And that's great for everybody. It's showing that people, first of all, I think, we can talk about whether people are starting to embrace these new rules. But the reality is people on both sides are raring to go. And they want Maybe some people want this election to just be over, but they're ready to get out and vote. And you've got some hardcore voters that just didn't wait till election day. You know, what we don't know about early voting, and remember, everybody calculates things their own way. My way is I throw out 2020. I don't look at that as a good statistical model for vote by mail, because that was an all vote by mail election. There were no other options. You can't really compare where vote by mail was in 2020 to where it is in 2024. And you really can't compare 21, 22, and 23 with presidential year turnout. So one good thing is you'll get these models right for the next election. You have to sort of look at these numbers and look at, are they attracting new voters, or are there people that are going to vote anyway? So, for example, I don't know if you voted yet, Fernando, and I shouldn't ask you because it's, but somebody who, I had somebody look up some numbers for me as it relates to the 7th district race after Saturday's vote. And Saturday was a massive turnout by all accounts. About 90% of the Democrats who voted, and about 90% of the Republicans who voted, are people that voted in 2020. So, it doesn't really matter for winning and losing whether somebody votes early or they vote on election day. The vote's still going to count. But among unaffiliated voters, you had about 20% of people that didn't vote 4 years ago that came out to vote now, and that's encouraging. It really is, and it's but you don't want to draw too many conclusions in the numbers this early, because they mean something, but they don't mean everything after 2 days.
No, you're right. And as a matter of fact, I did vote on Saturday. I was like, you know what? Let me do this now. I was just participating in Boot Drive, as you saw, you alluded to during my for the American Cancer Society. I was like, I'm already outside. Let me go vote and do that and get involved in the process. And I did see some people. And I started on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. There were lines all over all 21 counties in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Guys, you're both Democrats and Republicans, and in a state like New Jersey, where, I mean, let's be fair, 14 votes safely blue 88. But I believe that Kamala Harris wins New Jersey, which I think most people know. It might be single digits, David. I mean, she's immensely unpopular. Own the policies that she's been a part of this administration. It's mind-boggling to me that people associate her these last 3.5 years when she's in the room for decisions. And again, it's either you hate Donald Trump, if that's the only reason for voting for Kamala Harris, then David, not again. You have a right to vote whoever you want to. Me, David.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I should point out, Fernando, you as it comes to where you vote, you don't live in the real world. You live in the United States of Stack, and this, you want to talk about a guy who is just embraced early voting. There are 7 early voting centers in Essex County. There are 9 early voting centers in Bergen County to service 1 million people, and there are 7 of them in Union City. Because Stack is just relentless, and the guy would put an early voting center on every block if he could, and he just wants people to vote.
No,
he just wants people to vote.
I'm with you. In fairness, though, what's been interesting about Stack and many Democrats in Hudson County, though, David, and I can tell you because I've seen it when it comes to flyers and online content. I mean, listen, my state senator has been very inside of getting the turnout for Rob Menendez. Obviously, he was instrumental in getting Rob across the finish line in June in the primary. And he came up here early in the month. Hispanic heritage. He didn't from Burger Line. I haven't seen a lot of Democrats in Hudson County. All Kamala Harris. So I think that stacking like a lot of elected officials, I think they're reading the tea leaves. Yet, people like Rob Menendez, into the U.S. Senate, but that's enthusiasm in Hudson County for Congress.
No, and what you're seeing everywhere, and look, this is just a reality in a presidential election year. Endorsements matter in races where people don't know the candidates, but people make up their own minds on who they want to be the president. There's an abundance of information out there, and they'll listen to their party if they don't know who their candidate for Congress or county commissioner or something is. When it comes to president, people make up their own minds. So look, I'm not, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I read the same news that everybody else does. I watch the same news shows other people do, and Hispanic men and Black men are not coming out in as strong a number for their party as they have in previous elections. And it's not going to matter in New Jersey because, people get mad at me when I say it, but Jersey's a blue state, and you're talking about sort of double digit likelihood, even if it's 9 points or 8 points, it doesn't matter. It's not, you're talking about it's win or take all. You either win the 14 electoral votes or you don't. But when you start looking at these swing states, and where a couple thousand votes could make a difference, then when you're losing 10 points off an entire demographic of where you should be, that's incredibly significant.
No, fair enough, folks. If you're just joining us right now, it's 6:20 here on the East Coast. Watching us live here on Facebook Live or on YouTube, like and share. Let everyone know how much you enjoy Real Talk with Jersey First. David, a seat in 7. Any comparative races?
I probably have said this to you. I've probably used this line with you before because I use it everywhere. But I know you've got a respectful family show here. So if you permit me to say the G word, yeah. So the G word is gerrymandering, and whether you are a Democrat or Republican, and Republicans believe the congressional map was gerrymandered, and they say it openly. The Democrats know it was gerrymandered. They just don't want to, have so much hubris into bragging about it. But as a result of this map, there's really just one very competitive district, and that's the 7th. And the Democratic Party was willing to sacrifice Tom Malinowski in order to shore up other incumbents. So, you go back, in the previous decade, a map that used to be 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans, by 2018, it went to 11-1. Now it's 9-3. You've got some races that I think are interesting. I want to see how well Billy Prempa does in the 8th district. The guy is probably more conservative than that district is, but he's incredibly charismatic. And he's working his butt off, and he's run for 3 times, and he's not running against an entrenched incumbent. He's running against a state senator who's a wonderful person, and they're both good people there, but not as well known as Bill Pascrell. So and this district, what happened to Pascrell is everybody said, well, Pascrell is going to keep winning. We don't have to worry about Pascrell. So let's give him more Republican areas because he'll be all right. And that'll save Josh Gottheimer, and that'll save Mikey Sherrill. As a result, Billy Prempa was not like 11 or not down in the 3rd district, but it was Billy Prempa who did the best. And you've got some good congressional candidates on both sides that maybe, they're not favored this year, but, people like Darius Mayfield on the Republican side in the 12th, or Joe Salerno in the 2nd, they're putting up good fights. And I'll tell you, the place is just incredibly disappointing is that 3rd district. That was the seat that Andy Kim, now headed to the U.S. Senate, maybe for the next 30 years, but he narrowly beat an incumbent in the 2018 midterm by about 3,000 votes. And that's a district that Donald Trump carried twice. And Republicans are AWOL. They haven't done anything to be involved there. They did, they picked a candidate who on paper seems nice. I've never spoken to him. I cover these races about as intensely as everyone. I've never spoken to the guy. He hasn't reached out. He hasn't raised any money. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but Republicans have written off a district that they held as recently as 6 years ago, completely written it off. So you're not going to, that's why I respect people like Prempa or Mayfield that are running multiple times and they're fighting an uphill fight, but they're trying. And when Republicans don't even try or Democrats don't even try, that's just never going to work. And at the end of the day, there's ramifications to down ballot races because they're just not getting people that know how to run a campaign, and the party, both Democrats and Republicans in some cases, are not supporting these candidates the way they should.
No, it's disappointing for sure. David, let me ask you something just to get some clarity, because a lot of people have reached out to me and said, Fernando, can you help us separate fact from fiction? Certainly in Billy's race, the late Bill Pascrell passed away. My condolences to his family still, loss. But some people are like, oh my God, Pascrell just lived 8 more days. He was on the ballot, and Billy could have won that election. Can we separate, maybe get some clarity on what's true and what's not? Let's see what's
Yeah, I mean, look, it's Halloween time, so it's the season to be a little bit macabre, I guess. I mean, but Bill Pascrell, who, I mean, I've known him, I knew him for 35 years. Anybody who thought that he was getting maybe a little bit unfiltered didn't know him all that long, and this guy was unfiltered when he was young. It's just the way he was, but he got sick over the summer. He went into the hospital. There wasn't a lot of information given out about his health. And I hate these health stories. We all do, because it really is very private. But then there was an announcement that he was doing well and that he was leaving the hospital. We weren't told that he was leaving the hospital to go into a convalescence center. And then all of a sudden he's brought by ambulance to the hospital again, and sadly he passed away. And again, I hate talking about it in these terms, but this is a guy who was running for a seat that would have held him in office until 2 weeks short of his 90th birthday. So, the fact that a man at 87 passed away after 26 years in Congress, it's not shocking. The thing, finally to get to your question is that he, had he lived 8 more days, he would have passed the deadline to switch him out on the ballot, to put up another candidate. And that would have left Billy Prempa running against a dead man, and Democrats would have had to convince people to vote for a person who's no longer alive. And that's, that wouldn't have been so easy. And look, we all know Jersey. It is what it is. And, for better or for worse, you got to love Jersey, but legally Billy Prempa would have been running against Pascrell. In reality, I think you would have found some judge who would have found the deadline to be fungible, and he would have allowed them to switch out their candidates. They would have found some excuse. And it's just the way Jersey works.
Yeah, it's unfortunate again, and I think Billy's been persistent. Billy has been running a better campaign every time, and I think a lot of people are saying maybe third time's the charm. Right now, his opponent states Billy Poe. Again, I agree with you. Good woman. I met her at this chamber. I went breakfast. Got to talk to her. Looking to have her on in the new year. We'll see. But you would think that maybe Billy's message would resonate, right, David? Like, New Jersey's continues to be very affordable. Part of the legislature that made New Jersey unaffordable. Why isn't that message resonating more for Billy when he's taking on talking to people? Again, I don't want to just blame her.
And it's not her. It's not him. It's it all comes back to the same thing. As much as people just don't want to admit it, it's money, and and New Jersey is the most expensive media market for a congressional candidate in the country. You have to, if you're in the North Jersey district, you've got to go on New York TV. There, you don't get New Jersey. There's no New Jersey affiliates. So you have to be prepared not just to get people in the Passaic South Bergen district to like you, but you're also reaching people out on Long Island and up in Westchester and Dutchess County, and it is enormously expensive. And the only way that any candidate, whether it's a Democrat in a Republican district or a Republican in a Democratic district, is going to be even slightly more competitive than they would based on a straight line vote, is if the party is able to fund them and able to allow them to run a campaign. So Billy Prempa can, he's given it a good fight, but he's not on TV. He's not on network, broadcast TV. He's not on cable. He's not on streaming services. He doesn't have direct mail. He doesn't have field people sent in from the national party in order to pull out the vote. And so, personality can only get you so far.
No, you're absolutely right about that, folks. And if you're just joining us right now at 6:29 here on the East Coast, my guest is the editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, here on Jersey First Television Network. David, let's sort of move past interesting photo you published today, yesterday morning at Union County breakfast hosted by State Sorry. I'd love to have been in that table. Rise Mike Carroll, Andy Kim, I think Josh Heimer. Imagine
Ross Baracus, Steve Sweeney was there, all at one table. It was,
just imagine for a second over mimosas what those combos were like.
And by the way, credit to Sue Altman. Who would have imagined a couple of years ago that Sue Altman would be the party candidate with a chance of going to Congress, sitting at a table next to Steve Sweeney? It's just Jersey never amazes you. And by the way, good for her for getting a seat at the table. She's figured out how to do that.
No, certainly. Now, again, having said that, a lot of very different personalities and different characters, as they say, David, in that table. As we head into 2025, obviously we have the gubernatorial race, all 80 assembly seats up for grabs, a lot of very interesting municipal races up here in President County by me, mayoral, city mayoral office, council, a lot to sort of dissect in 2025. What are you hearing about the gubernatorial and
well, the gubernatorial race among political insiders is totally eclipsing discussions in New Jersey about presidential or Congress. Governor is the whole ball of wax in Jersey, and that's what people are concerned about. And what they're looking at with the presidential election is how's it going to affect the governor's race. If Donald Trump is in the White House, whether he wins New Jersey or he doesn't, there's a pretty good chance that Donald Trump's going to be in the White House. And how does that affect the governor's race? Or if Kamala Harris is in the White House, does it make it easier for Republicans to win? You have to go back to 63 years. It'll be 64 years. 1961 is the last time a political party won 3 consecutive governor's races. And in New Jersey, everybody's heard me, use this line a million times, that New Jersey hasn't elected a Republican to the U.S. Senate since 1972. Since then, 48 other states, including places like California and Rhode Island and Massachusetts, have elected Republicans to the Senate. The only state that's gone longer than New Jersey is Hawaii. So Democrats have this incredible winning streak when it comes to the United States Senate. But when it comes to governor, even a state like New Jersey with nearly 1 million more Democrats than Republicans, in unaffiliated voters and a lot of Democrats, they don't necessarily mind having a Republican governor. And during this same stretch of time that I've talked about being all Democratic U.S. senators, Democrats and Republicans have split the governorship. It's been an equal number of years. So governor, that's what it is all about, Fernando. And people have been talking about it for 2 years now, and this is a term limited governor in office, so it's a wide open race that sometimes only happens every 8 years, and this is what it's all. This is where everybody's head's going to be.
I mean, Dave, obviously it's really a year away, but if I had to sort of handicap this when it comes to my predictions, and I'm pretty good on this, I just get a sense that because of fundraising, I think he'll certainly be able to mobilize a lot of support. I know that recently, I know you broke the story about Mikey Sherrill getting some serious endorsements from Middle East County and Passaic County. But Josh Gottheimer with Hudson and Bergen, and I think at some point, Steve Sweeney's not going to be able to afford to stay in this race. I think maybe Steve Sweeney's South Jersey community might go to Josh Gottheimer. I'm not sure about Baraka. Again, maybe fundraising dries out. Same thing with Sean Spiller. I kind of look at Josh Gottheimer getting across the finish line. He's not as, woke or progressive as the others. Even Steve Fulop, who I know has had a big head start in fundraising. I look at Josh Gottheimer, a guy who's pretty much, center left, not this crazy woke guy, not this crazy progressive. I think that could get him across the finish line. Support on the Republican side. Again, I like Jack personally, but it's their try. He can't really reinvent himself. I think John Bramnick's very vanilla, in my opinion. I like Bill Speedia. We're friends, but it only resonates in certain parts of Jersey. I don't think winning a statewide primary, may not be realistic. We'll kind of look at Jack in November of next year.
But remember, Jim Florio won on his third try. So, it happens. And a lot of people, have lost a couple times. Christy Whitman ran for the U.S. Senate, lost before she became governor. Tom Kaine lost the governor's race before he won one. So it's not all of that unusual, especially in a state where it's hard to become known. And this is hard to forecast. And I was looking when you were on the wide shot earlier. I see all the degrees and everything behind you, and we've had different educations, and unfortunately, I'm a graduate of a federal witness academy, and one of the things they taught me before I was beginning to testify is if you can't answer a question truthfully, don't answer it. Don't try and guess. And so that's probably the issue with the governor's race right now. Is it's so early. You don't want to guess, and you don't necessarily see all the money. Sweeney, they're all going to hit the match. All of these major candidates, they're going to raise enough to get to the full match. Some will do it earlier than others, but they're all going to get there. And what you've got, and that used to be a big deal until you had super PACs, and until Citizens United. And so you don't know where this money is going to come from. If Sean Spiller is able to get, through public school teachers all around the country, more likely, will the Illinois Education Association put $2 million in his race? Will California put $5 million? If he hits that $35 million mark for the super PACs, then it's impossible to say that he's not a viable candidate. Sweeney's got labor unions, and they're going to pump in the carpenters, the iron workers. He's one of them. They're going to pump money into their super PAC. Cheryl's got some pretty good fundraising connections. She's got the laborers. Gottheimer is the human fundraising machine. Fulop qualified for his match almost a year ago, and he's got $9 million in his super PAC already. He's a good fundraiser. Baraka's running the biggest city in the state. So, what you're talking about here is potentially to get through a Democratic primary. All in, if it stays 6 candidates like this, you could be in total hovering at that $100 million mark just to have a chance to run in a general election.
No, Fair enough. David, I mean, I feel that Donald Trump's going to be the next president, but I think that'll probably energize Democrats in 2025. Having said that, it'd be smart for Democrats to maybe distance themselves from Phil Murphy. I mean, again, as a homeowner, property owner in New Jersey, I mean, Phil Murphy's been a disaster. Taxation, other things. Would it be smart for Democrats to maybe distance themselves from Murphy policies?
But what you're seeing in polling numbers, where he's mentioned, he's still popular. People haven't spent a lot of money at this point taking him down. He might not be. We all live in these bubbles, and that's what people have to understand about politics. Is not every bubble is the same. The polling numbers show, Democrats are still fine with Phil Murphy. He's upside down with Republicans. Obviously, Republicans can't stand them. Unaffiliated voters, they're a little mixed. But one of the things that's interesting is I don't remember the last time a governor of New Jersey hasn't really been, a central figure in a national election. And he didn't really cost his party picked up seats in the 23 midterm. He's not really, people aren't out there really making Murphy their target. And by the way, when you have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and before that, Joe Biden, there's not enough oxygen left to in a room to make people say, Phil Murphy, the guy, by the way, Union City's finest, I guess, the guy who has really taken the hit this year, who voters now know and have these intense feelings about, is former Senator Bob Menendez. And it's just, I mean, you and I could probably talk hours about the fall from grace and the importance of a visual. And New Jerseyans returned him after his last trial, after he was after the hung jury. They said, you know what, we're going to give him another 6 years in the Senate. But it was those visuals, it was those gold bars and cash stuffed in jackets that this guy. I mean, it is it's actually a little sad to watch a guy go from being a man on a global stage, chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to just people disassociating themselves with him completely. So it's not Phil Murphy that voters really disliked. It's Bob Menendez. And you don't really, Kane did it a little bit. He ran an ad talking about how he ran against Bob Menendez in 2006. But you're not seeing Menendez and Murphy really on center stage. People aren't saying, send Phil Murphy a message, vote for, whoever. They're talking about Trump and Harris, and then by the time you get past that, everybody's head is fried to begin with.
Oh, absolutely. I think, listen, at this year's League of Municipalities, man, people need a reason to burn up. It's going to be this year after this election, that's for sure. David, let me ask you this, though. And again, to your reference about the former senator, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lesson to be learned there. It's just, it's heartbreaking for a lot of people I know in Hudson County, here in Union City, knowing Bob. I grew up knowing Bob. My family knows Bob. He's always been a gentleman to me and my family. And to see that fall from grace, listen, I get it. Forcing anybody to do anything. Heartbreaking when you look at it. But there's a lesson to be learned for sure.
Yeah, and it's just, you're right. It's, I mean, I've known him a long time. We were young mayors together in the 80s. I mean, I knew him from Trenton back when he was a freshman assemblyman. Whether you like him or not, whether you share his beliefs or whether you disagreed with him, the guy was a skilled legislator. He was good at it. He knew how to move the ball down the field, and that seniority, and that influence and that ability to forge coalitions in the Senate, brings dollars back to New Jersey. And we saw that with Sandy. that's going to be missed. But there's just things. All of us who know him, we look at stuff and we just, I mean, it's like, well, like, what was he thinking? And I'll give you a quick example. Is I found, I was looking at his most recent FEC report, and I didn't even write a story about it. I think I just put it out on X, on Twitter. The day the U.S. attorneys started their summation, 5 hours of a U.S. attorney standing in front of a jury talking about what a sleazeball Bob Menendez is, and he sits there and he takes it. And then what does he do afterwards that evening? He walks out of the court, goes to a really nice Manhattan restaurant, and has a $369 dinner and charges it to his campaign. So, grifters got to grift, I guess. And that's just sad, right? I mean, would that be your mentality? I mean, you just, I've been in these situations where people just beat the crap out of you for hours and hours and hours. And, you just want to go back to your home, your hotel room, wherever it is. And, and you want to watch an old Seinfeld episode and, just send down for, just go get a burger or something. I can't imagine what's going through a guy's mind to think, what I'm going to do after having the crap kicked out of me for all these hours. I'm going to go out and have a nice dinner, and I'm going to have somebody else pick up the tab for my meal. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the foundation, is it's just the mentality of having other people pay for things that you'd like to have for yourself.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a great summation there for sure. Folks, it's 6:43 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is the distinguished editor, David Wildstein, joins us here on the Jersey First Television Network. David, I know your working is and you break stories. I don't think you sleep. Talk about Batman.
Yeah.
You don't sleep. Okay?
What's the saying? I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, I say the same thing. Break something today over the last couple of days. Obviously, no more county lines. At least on the Democrat Party side, we'll see what happens with Republicans in 2025. But nearby, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, who was the first Democrat to announce run for governor, is looking to shake up the establishment a little bit. Obviously, we know about the Hudson County Civil War. I party all the time lately. I get asked about it. Yeah. Like Steve Fulop is really trying to shake the establishment, running some candidates since no county line. So for our audience, I know maybe that isn't familiar, what does that look like? Now? And someone like Steve Fulop to be running candidates on his candidates.
Yeah, it's a good strategy for him. If people aren't going to like you, and they don't want you there to begin with, then you don't have to play by their rules anymore. And he is he's building a different kind of campaign. And what you do in an election is you just try and find a lane that nobody's in, that you could just put your foot on the gas and move through it. And if there's 6 candidates, what do you need? About 150,000 votes in a Democratic primary in a 6-candidate field to win the nomination. So he's looking for people that he can get to vote for him that aren't going to be delivered for him. And so why should you behave? What's the incentive for him to behave and be the good soldier and let everybody just sort of screw him over without fighting back? And so that's what you're getting here. Is Fulop is pushing back. He's not afraid to throw a punch. We saw that he threw a punch at Josh Gottheimer last week. Gottheimer, not afraid of a punch either, punched him right back. And for people like you and me, when you have candidates just engaging in hand-to-hand warfare, that just makes this whole thing much more interesting for you and I to observe.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely something interesting to watch. Now, we saw obviously earlier in the year, though, David, that the court decision rendered the county line really now for Democrats. What's the status for Republicans in 2025? Because I'm sure that's going to be an issue going into that next year's gubernatorial race and the primary subsequently.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Judge Karashi, and he's going to make up his own mind, and he's going to weigh all of these factors. That being said, I don't see a scenario by which lines for either side survives. Republicans dodged a bullet because the lawsuit didn't involve any Republicans. Well, there's going to be some Republican who isn't going to have a line, isn't going to have the party support. They're going to join this lawsuit. They're going to go in there, and Karashi's then going to say no more lines for everybody. It's not over yet, but it's over. I mean, this is just if you're a supporter of lines, you're like a Mets fan, Charlie Brown or something. You're going to be, accustomed. And by the way, change, and I'm not, I don't try and take sides in these things, but change isn't terrible. And people are going to figure out, if you don't have this way to get someplace, then you figure out another way to get there. And what we saw in even in the Democratic primary this year is, even without the lines, the organizations still prevail. They're just going to have to do it differently. They're going to have to work a little smarter. They may have to raise more money. They may have to run campaigns for some of their incumbents that have just relied on the benefit of a line without having to do anything. Maybe it's not terrible for longtime incumbents to get off their buttocks and go out there and actually work and get their name known and make their case to voters. And some of the old timers that just don't know any other way, they're going to get beat. You're going to see some people get beat. And is that so bad on either side? Is it really so bad that somebody who hasn't worked, who's been, I don't want to call them lazy, but they've been complacent for, sometimes decades, that they just have never really had to run a strong campaign? And you know what? These people are replaceable. Everybody's replaceable. And maybe it's not so terrible if some people get beat because they're not working hard enough, because they're not raising enough money, because they're not out going door to door as much, that they're not coming on your show because they figure, I don't need the exposure. I have the line. All of a sudden now you're going to have these people, they're going to be begging you, Fernando, begging you to come on your show, because it's going to be a way of them reaching primary voters that they've never had to, because it's all been taken care of them before. These line people, and I don't mean to come across harshly, but people in one county parties who have enjoyed the benefit of the lines, they are the trust fund babies of New Jersey politics. And let them go out, let them work, and you're going to see it. You're going to see people. You get a lot of people. Probably both parties, but more so on the conservative Republican side, that watch your show every Monday. And if you're going to be in a tough primary, if you're going to be in a tough Republican primary without the benefit of the line, you're going to be begging Fernando Uribe to come on. Let me come on and let me make my case to the voters.
Well, David, you're really kind, and I appreciate that. And certainly, yeah. I mean, listen, unlike other journalists, I mean, I'm averaging 10,000, 12,000 views a week. So for all the haters out there, you might want to go to Wayne Reed and yes, get some ointment for that burn when it comes to that. But yeah, no, I welcome anybody. I'll certainly be busy. You're always busy, David. I've been very busy this year hosting debates. Great job that you and Joey Fox
Thank you.
Debates.
Thank you.
You've moderated. You'll be busy.
And I have a great team, by the way. Joey Fox, Zach Blackburn, Kevin Sanders. Great team with me. Joey and young reporters, superstars. Zach, now in his first year, and they're not afraid to tell me, when we have our calls, they're not afraid to say, cut it out. You're an old man. You don't get how this works. And I have the benefit of great people working with me.
No, you really do. And again, I get to say, like, during the debates, you moderated, you and Joey Fox did a great job. Again, your staff is amazing. So keep up the great work. Having said that, when it comes to next year, again, if we see this crowd right now with the Democrat Party in the gubernatorial primary, really, I mean, that could be difficult to even organize a debate like that, right? With that many people.
Yeah, I hate debates with more than two candidates, and just like you, I get a lot of incoming from people inside, these tiny little bubbles. They're bubbles so small that you can't even, you barely can find them, and they go stand outside a ShopRite and they get 50 signatures on a petition, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm a candidate. You need to include me in a debate." Well, I don't really care about the signatures. To me, a candidate means you have to have some support. You have to have real people that are for you. You have to be out there working hard. You need to raise money. So I'm not afraid to sort of draw that line there. It's hard with more than two. It becomes more of a forum than a debate. But we're gonna have to. I guess we're gonna have to all of us are gonna have to figure it out.
No, absolutely. David, let me ask you this. Again, folks, it's 6:53 here on the East Coast. I appreciate you still tuning in here. My guest tonight is the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, David Wildstein, here on the Jersey First Television Network. David, really, it's interesting because when we think about next year, no county lines, obviously, so much money being thrown into these campaigns, both for the Republican and Democrat parties collectively. When we think about the media market, right, New Jersey, it's sandwiched in between New York and Philadelphia. To your point before, obviously, we see so many ads running. Obviously, listen, right now we got the baseball playoffs, we got the NFL underway, we got the NBA, NHL, the New York Liberty just won the first ever WNBA championship. We're seeing ads all over the place. These are tens of millions of dollars for 30-second, 60-second ads. When it comes to next year's gubernatorial race, do you foresee that is really will continue when it comes to not just the Republican candidates, but again, the Democrat candidates when it comes to primary season next June?
Yeah, I mean, if you have 6 Democrats and 4 Republicans, and if they're all funded and they're all up on television, 10 candidates all on the airwaves, and you and I we're viewing things through a different lens. We enjoy this. We like seeing these ads, but there's a lot of people. They're just going to be so tired of New Jersey politics. That's why these campaigns that are going to look for a different way of doing things. The one who sort of figures out a new way to not just be one of the rest. That's the person who's going to be the governor.
David, before I let you go, and again, you've been a gentleman. I know you're working like 16-hour, actually, no, not 16, like 20-hour days. I'm pretty sure.
No, not that much, but
Oh, okay. I mean, again, it's just, I really, again, I admire your work ethic. I mean, and that's why you're as good as you are. That's why the Globe is trusted, unlike really the establishment media that I always go after on this show, because it just seems like there's a science to reporting. It's about reporting news, reporting data, reporting facts. I get it. Op-eds are what they are, David. I really want to pick your brain here because, again, obviously during final thoughts, I like to take sort of shots at people that aren't doing their job. And obviously, I mean, by the way, thank you for that great Tom Moran picture that I know you took in, in one of your columns. I use it regularly whenever you tune in for final thoughts.
Look, I don't mean, maybe I'm a little punchy because I'm already sleep deprived, but I'm sorry. The guy's just a schmuck. He's just a schmuck. And there's and his people who agree with him say that about him, and he's mean. Yeah. And he thinks that nobody can possibly be right if they don't agree with him. And he doesn't have the platform that he used to have. When the Star Ledger, a decade ago was selling 350,000 newspapers on a Sunday, print newspapers. Now they're down to about 32,000. The math is clear. And, you sort of have to know where you are in this business. He's just not I don't know. I don't like him. And I didn't like him before he said bad things about me. And I don't like him because it's not because he doesn't like me. It's because he's just bad at his job. Yeah. He's just really bad at it. And that, I don't care if somebody doesn't like me, and I don't care if somebody doesn't agree with me. If they're good at their job, I'm at least going to respect them. The guy doesn't want to take any responsibility at all for the failure of his newspaper. That the fact that they have lost 81% of their print circulation, that's not Tom's fault, right? It's nothing to do with Tom. It's everybody else's. And by the way, Fernando, and I'll probably post something on this tomorrow, but somebody sent me an email. The Ledger's going up for their digital prices. They're doing a 20% price increase next month.
Why?
The Ledger talks about affordability for New Jerseyans, and the state has to be a place that they can live. And they're raising their prices 20%. So that, you know what that's going to do? That's just going to create a bigger news desert. It's just going to create a greater number of uninformed voters because they're not doing their job, because they're talking about pizza and French fries and proms and not about real issues that people care about. And it costs, if you want to go buy a newspaper every day, like we used to get at our homes when we were kids growing up, and I'm a lot older than you, where the Star Ledger was great. Today, it costs $1,050 a year to go 6 days a week into a 7-Eleven or a Quick Check and buy the Star Ledger. How many people can really afford that kind of disposable income to invest in? By the way, when I was getting those newspapers, and I got to tell you, Fernando, I know this well because I used to work for them. I was a paper boy. I used to deliver their newspapers. They were heavy. Now, I mean, God, you pick it up and it's a couple of pages. There's nothing to it anymore. Right. And then they're charging money that people can't afford. So what good are they? Why do people worry about what Tom Moran says when people aren't reading what he writes?
No, listen, David, you're right. And again, I go after, I mean, I don't want to pick on Tom, which I like to, but I don't want to pick on Tom exclusively. But it just seems like whether it's, establishments like the Star Ledger, and we're seeing it with NorthJersey.com, the Bergen Record, even Politico, like the idea of these expensive paywalls is mind-boggling to me. Because again, one thing is an op-ed section, I get it, but it just seems like a lot of the establishment media, though, David, in New Jersey. And again, what I like about the New Jersey Globe is you're reporting the news, you're reporting data. If you have some op-ed or opinion pieces, that's one thing. But the idea that the Star Ledger,
and it's free to everybody, because whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, and I talk to the people from both parties, news, you shouldn't be better informed because you can afford to be better informed. Everybody should have access to news, and the Ledger doesn't want to. They just don't want to figure that out. And a lot of these newspapers, the Bergen Record, Gannett, they're no better at it than they. And I'll give you one quick example, because I know we're going out of time, and I probably talked too much with you. But think back a year ago, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin came up with this what to Democrats they called sort of a centrist Democratic plan called Stay NJ, and it was a property tax credit for senior citizens. It was to help them stay in New Jersey. It was a tax cut. It was a tax cut. And Tom Moran thought that it was too stilted toward the middle class. And he got up on his little itsy bitsy soapbox and said, I'm putting the full force of my newspaper behind opposing this because it's screwing over poor people. And then he puts the column that he wrote beating up on the speaker behind the paywall. Yeah. So the people that the speaker was allegedly screwing over couldn't afford to read that they were the ones being screwed over. And they don't get it. They just don't understand. They don't understand that in the media, you've got it, you do it every single day. You sort of believe in this sort of, a good citizen social responsibility to give people news. Everybody gives news in their own way, and everybody has their own value, but you don't want people to be, you at your core want people to be informed. You want people to vote, even if people you don't like. If you had 100% voter turnout and your candidate didn't win, you'd still sleep at night because that's what democracy is all about.
Yeah,
What's not good is when when the media doesn't help it along and doesn't tell people it's election day until, by the way, the very end. And you're going to see a story in Gannett, guarantee it, this weekend. Everything you need to know about the 7th district race. And what they don't put is the next line, which is everything you need to know about the 7th district race that we haven't covered at all. So,
yeah,
listen, that's a problem. And media's got to step up and do its job.
No, David, you're right. And did you mention the Bergen record? I mean, yeah, maybe somebody will wake up Charles Style this week, and maybe he'll publish that column a week before. Who knows?
Charlie, by the way, Charlie's a nice guy. Charlie's a nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
The schmuck of Gannett is Mike Kelly. I mean, just what a Tom Moran. I call him a schmuck, and it's fun. He's not a stupid man. He understands policy. He's just not an open-minded man. Mike Kelly, God, Fernando, I'm not sure. And I mean, here it is. Newspaper. Go. I hate to send people to a site, but go ahead and look and read Mike Kelly's columns for the last couple months. He's trying. He keeps writing columns about here's what Kamala Harris is doing wrong, and here's how she can win the election. And we don't need Mike Kelly to tell people how to win a presidential election. We need Mike Kelly to go cover a Bergen County Board of Commissioners meeting, or cover town council meetings and school board meetings, zoning and planning board, and talk about what your legislators in local news are voting. I don't need Mike Kelly to be a national columnist. There are national columnists that we all trust that are much smarter and much better informed and have much better sources. They want to do what's fun, and they lose sight of the fact that their job is supposed to be local news.
Listen, that's very myopic.
Now you got me all excited. Now I'm not getting to sleep.
No, it's cool. Yeah. I like this David Wildstein on the show for sure. And you're right, it is very myopic. But I think that's also lending itself to the reality that other news sites that are not part of the establishment, right? Obviously the Star Ledger, NorthJersey.com, the Bergen Record, NJ Spotlight News. This is why you're seeing sites like, the New Jersey Monitor, the Hudson County View, the Jersey Times. You're seeing, I don't want to call it citizen journalism, but I want to call it like other news sites that are reporting. I guess they have op-eds, and I get all that. But again, when we're seeing, news sites like Insider NJ become full-blown propaganda machines, NJ Spotlight News to some extent, the Ledger, North Jersey, it's disappointing, David. And I think it lends itself to, why would people, again, in a struggling economy where people are still struggling with interest rates, high food prices, high gas prices, and I hate to even throw Politico into this, but Politico is even guilty of a paywall, which is an enormous amount of money. We're not talking about a couple $100s. We're talking about thousands of dollars a year for a paywall in Politico. Well, let's be honest. For
their state sites, for their national sites, it's different. And they run some good journalism there.
Sure.
They really do. But they're it's their bit. Look, if you're going to be, and I'm not telling anybody what they should or shouldn't believe, but if you're going to believe in capitalism, you're going to believe in free markets, these people, they're privately held companies. And, even whether it's the Star Ledger, which, by the way, Star Ledger owned by, Advanced Publications. It's one of the, it's one of the 50 largest privately held companies, family businesses in the United States. They're not cutting back on reporters because they can't afford it. They're cutting back on reporters because it's just a money loser. We all have businesses to run, right? You can't be volunteers in these things, and you wish you could. And even these nonprofits, they're still being funded by people. So look, it's capitalism. That's fine, but at least admit where you are and where you're going with this. And you make no secret of the fact that Real Talk with Fernando Uribe represents your opinions. You're not pretending anything differently. You're not misleading anybody who's listening. I respect that, and that's fine. What I don't like are people saying we're providing fair and balanced coverage, and then they're not, because that's that is that to me is just unethical.
No, I agree. David, actually, let me pick your brain on this. I'm not sure if you saw the piece a couple weeks ago by NJ Advanced Media via NJ.com. I talked about it and dissected it at length a couple weeks ago. The sort of, Project Extreme, where it gets, I guess, NJ.com and NJ Advanced Media were trying to sort of expose right-wing extremism in New Jersey and how it's on the rise. And to your point, the reason I can't take NJ.com seriously and the Ledger is because there's, again, I hate to sort of engage in the whataboutisms, but there is so much left-wing extremism coming out of Trenton, coming out of activist groups that have the ears of the Senate president, the Assembly Speaker, even the governor, and that just goes unreported by the establishment media. And that really pissed me off, David, because I said, wait a minute, am I the only person that has to dissect this and sort of call out all the left-wing extremism? Because there's plenty of them out there. There's propagandists, there's editors, there's columnists that are just as, I would say, dangerous as people that they're sort of ridiculing in that hit piece, I thought, by NJ Advanced Media. Did you read it? Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a hit piece there, but if I was, the main target was Mike Crispy. If I was Mike Crispy, I'd be thrilled with that piece because they raised his profile. They ran a great photo of Mike. Yeah. You can't take that away. They didn't do what I do, which is the worst possible photo of Tom Moran.
That's a great picture. I love that picture.
Yeah. And the video is even better, that I did the screenshot from. But, what sometimes you have to realize, and I don't think the Ledger considered it, people, first of all, it's not a big audience and not a lot of undecided voters. It raised Mike's profile. It raised it quite a bit. And so, that's I thought that story was better for him than bad for him. And they raised his profile. And, I don't know if it's arrogance or just lack of some common sense, but if they thought that story was going to take Mike Crispy down, at the end of the day, it just built him up and made him stronger. And I'm not saying they were trying to do that either. They certainly weren't. But these when they do a hit piece, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for because sometimes it empowers people too.
I mean, listen,
you and I are talking about it tonight, right? I mean, we're talking about it. So
no, I mean, what bothered me again, I know Mike personally. I also know Nicole Stouffer from the New Jersey Project, Alexandra Bauer from Moms for Liberty in Bergen County, and other conservative activists. God forbid they're standing for parental rights. They're trying to sort of bring to the attention of people that there's some curriculum in our public schools in New Jersey that aren't appropriate. God forbid that they stand up. And NJ Advanced Media, shame on them. This was cool to do. Left-wing extremism. They should cover also.
Yeah. Well, look, Fernando, and I don't want to get personal with you, and I don't ask these questions.
Sure.
So I'm just going to say, if you are a religious man, and if you pray, you should pray for the Star Ledger to do such a hit piece on you, because your numbers are great to begin with, but you want to watch your audience, just skyrocket. Have the Star Ledger say Fernando Uribe is too conservative for New Jersey, and it's going to send people your way. So if you're a religious guy, pray for that.
I hope
pray to be their target.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's see. And listen, by the way, and for the record, I've invited Tom Moran on this show. I would give him an hour commercial free, and we would have a debate. But it just seems like people Tom Moran.
You're not going to have a debate, Fernando. Tom Moran doesn't debate. Tom Moran says this is the way it is. And if you push back on him, and I've heard this, not just Republicans, more Democrats than Republicans. This is like the weirdest thing in the world, Fernando. People, when they're on the phone with Tom Moran and they're trying to give their side of the story and you're disagreeing with him, he hangs up on you. I mean, imagine that. People who are elected officials, people who work for some of the most serious people in government, and Tom Moran hangs up on them because he doesn't like what they're saying to him. It's crazy. It really is.
David, it must be nice to make over $100,000 a year and act like a child. I mean, it must
Yeah.
be nice. It must be nice.
But guess what? Guess what you and I just did? Because we've been talking about Tom Moran for 10 minutes or so, and we have done exactly to him what they tried to do to other people. We have raised his profile, and people who don't agree with you, people who don't like me, now they're going to think, oh, Tom Moran, poor guy. They just did a hit job on poor Tom. We better go buy the Star Ledger. So you know what? Those people, spend your $1,050 and go buy the Star Ledger every day and make them stronger. Because I don't think you care, and I know that I don't care.
I agree. David, before I let you go, got to pick your brain on this question. I get asked all the time. My dad's a big political junkie like myself. Loves watching my show. He loves reading you, by the way. So, Fernando,
thank him for me.
I'm a big David Wildstein fan for sure. But having said that, and I don't listen, I don't claim to know everything, even though I know a good amount of stuff. I have to pick your brain on this. Me and I, we both despise Chris Christie. And he asked me, so he ran for president again, failed again. And, surprisingly, some people donated money to him. I don't money like that. Give it to me.
Yeah.
PlayStation. When that money goes, and obviously his presidential being a disaster. What happens to that money? Does he have to return?
Yeah, no, I mean he raised a little under $8 million. That's
crazy.
Which for a presidential campaign, that is nothing. You are poor when when that's all you have. When you're talking about candidates that are raising $1 billion, and if you're going to be a serious presidential candidate these days, you really have to be at like 100 million. He raised a little under 8. I think he's got about 50,000 left. He's spending on staff. He's spending on his. I'm sure he wasn't flying coach everywhere, and this was one of his problems as governor is $30,000 a night hotel rooms in Jordan that he got the king to pick up there. I said it about Menendez. He's just a grifter, Fernando. That's just all it is. But he spent it. I mean, he spent it in a legitimate pursuit of the presidency, and it wasn't successful. And one of the reasons he dropped out is because he ran out of money. He spent it all trying to see if he could put something together. Voters weren't buying what he was selling, and when you run out of money, that's when you get out of the race.
So, I mean, again, because I don't know the ELEC numbers or that data. I mean, again, you're great at this. Does he have any money left? And if so, where does that money go? Or does it just stay in a fund somewhere, frozen?
Yeah. It'll sit there. I think he's only at about $50,000, and so it's not. He's not going to steal $50,000 and go buy some new furniture or a new car or something like that. He's going to spend it on political purposes, and it's legal. And you get it all the time. Members of Congress, they leave and they've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in unspent money. Bob Menendez has 1.5 million, and the only reason he's only down to 1.5 million is his, I think it was $9 million in his Senate account. He's used practically all of it to pay for the lawyers in an attempt to try and beat that rap. And now he's spending it on as an appeal. And he doesn't, regular people accused of a crime don't have the ability to have a legal defense fund or a campaign account in order to pay their lawyers. And so he's very fortunate that way. And, dinners and, I mean, God, it was amazing to me during the trial. And I wrote about this a few months ago. He had a driver on his Senate payroll who would drive from Bergen County to Lower Manhattan every day to drive Menendez from the courthouse 1 mile to his hotel. I mean, so when you're living a life where you're on somebody else's dime, it's you get used to it. I don't, Christie's sort of been like that too. And I know you're running out of time. I'll leave you with this.
No,
It
no,
is
no.
poorly,
I actually have one more thing to ask you, but
yeah. Go ahead. Could I'll say to you, and this is purely my opinion only, and people are free to disagree or agree. But if you told me I had to spend the rest of my life on a deserted island, and you gave me a choice of spending it with Chris Christie or Bob Menendez,
Ooh.
I'm picking Menendez because he's the better human being.
Wow.
So, and I bet your father's going to agree with. Ask your dad that question. Put it just like that. On an island, rest of your life, Christie or Menendez. He's picking Menendez too because he's a good Union City guy.
Oh my God, David, real quick. Shout out to Joey Block. I'm sure you saw that he was got the Best Podcast Award at the recent International Society of Professional Journalists Gala dinner.
Good guy, well deserved.
I'm happy for him. I gave him his roses last week. Again, I was nominated as well. Didn't win, but I wanted to put him over for any of you that out there know pro wrestling terms. It's a very complimentary thing to do. I put him over and really complimented his brand, which has really grown in 4 years. Having said that, though, David, isn't it funny? 4 or 5 years ago, when I started a podcast, journalists, the establishment journalists would look at this and say, please, podcast, give me a break. Nobody listens to podcasts, watches podcasts. That's not real journalism. Then sure enough, New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists has to acknowledge that podcasting really serves an incredible value, I think, to journalism as it continues to evolve. Is that fair to say, David?
I think it's very fair, and I think that technology has permitted people to have platforms that used to be just for those who owned the airwaves, and I saw it with our debates. I mean, we got incredible, whether it was Andy Kim and Curtis Bashaw or Tom Kane and Sue Altman or Billy Premp and Nellie Poe, we got great numbers. We did terrific. And we're in a great partnership with On New Jersey and Laura Jones, and she's brought a lot of class and dignity and professionalism to just organizing that. But the bottom line is, between all of our internet platforms, but when you put something, you forget my site because I'm just a small, I'm just a small little shop. But when you put those things and you're on Facebook and you're on YouTube and it's up on Twitter and other social media platforms, and C-SPAN picks it up, it brings these kinds of podcasts, whether it's verbal only or video also, like we're doing tonight. It makes it easier for real people to reach real people, and that's really something that was unimaginable 20 years ago. And I'll leave you with a Mike Kelly line, because when I started the first political website in 2000, and it started to take off a little bit, the old Politics NJ site, I still have it. Mike Kelly wrote that the internet is a fad and people will always get their news from newspapers, and how that did not age well.
Yeah, it did not age well. David, before I let you go, I want to thank you for your time. I always appreciate your kind words for my brand of journalism and coming on this program, having a great discussion about what's going on. And nobody does it better than you. Again, I can't speak highly enough about the New Jersey Globe and everything that you do. Again, Joey Fox, your great staff. You do wonderful, wonderful work with reporting, obviously, when you guys moderate debates. Again, I just want to thank you for believing in my brand of journalism. That's very complimentary, and I'm really, really flattered by that. I appreciate you always wanting to come on when I reach out to you with some advance notice, of course. And again, I know how busy you are, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on this program. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Well, I mean, that's, let's leave this and let's make my last word about Fernando Uribe. This is what media should be. It shouldn't all be, what was the old folk song about little boxes full of ticky-tacky? They shouldn't all be the same. There's got to be different personalities, different people, different ways of doing things. I try and play it down the middle, and that doesn't make me right or wrong. It's just, that's my lane. Your lane is your voicing your opinion. Joey Block is sort of a hybrid, and even like, God, even Insider, it's an opinion site.
Yeah.
He doesn't call it an opinion site. It's an opinion site, but at least there's an opinion there, and at least they're trying. So this is what you do. A lot of people, it's going to come as a tremendous shock to you. There are people who say, Fernando Uribe, he's a very conservative Republican, which by the way, so was William Buckley, and so was John McLaughlin, and you get a lot of people on both sides. And you know what? As long as everybody's represented, and as long as it's a safe forum where people don't feel abused, and it doesn't, it never gets personal with you. If you have somebody on and you don't agree with them, you don't make it personal.
Yeah.
You don't take the cheap shots, and that's that. So thank you for what you're doing here, because that's. It's just important that, as long as it's civil, and as long as people are talking about, fact and not fiction, which is exactly, where things should be, then it's good for democracy. And that's what, whether it's you or me or, or somebody on the left that you don't have anything in common with, what we all want to have what we all want to have the same is we want to be good for democracy, but we don't want to be the same thing. We don't want it to be just the same stuff for no matter where you go. It's just the same, a little bit of personality, a little, which you give it, a little bit of attitude, which you certainly give it. That's good. And I think you should just keep doing it that way. So that's my final word.
Well, haters out there, by the way, did you listen to the goat of journalism right there, David Wildstein? Haters, you might want to learn a little something about what he just said there. Folks, he is David Wildstein, the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe. Again, check out njglobe.com. Follow him on Twitter. Obviously, check out the website regularly. It's updated almost hourly, I feel, with great scoops, great content. David, God bless you. Again, I'm really glad
Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you're safe down there in South Florida. Yeah. Stay safe. God bless you. And we'll talk to you again soon on Jersey First.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Folks, good stuff there by David Wildstein. Again, check out the New Jersey Globe. Folks, when you need up-to-the-minute news about what's going on in New Jersey politics, and even some national stuff too. I mean, again, you can rely on David for that, because him, Joey Fox, and the great staff of the New Jersey Globe do a phenomenal job in reporting the news in New Jersey, getting you data, getting you early voting totals. I mean, again, folks, let's be fair. The establishment media isn't doing that. They're just trying to copy what David Wildstein does and give you up-to-the-minute reporting. Folks, again, they're not the same. So, obviously, I say it all the time. If you are not subscribing to the New Jersey Globe, if you don't follow David Wildstein on Twitter, if you don't follow Joey Fox on Twitter as well, again, do me a favor. Follow them. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're reporting, because it certainly is content worth reviewing every day, especially, folks, 8 days to go. One of the more competitive House races anywhere in the country is right here in New Jersey in the 7th Congressional District. And guess who's been on top of that race? Guess who's been reporting data? Guess who's giving out numbers about mail-in ballots, about early voting? Folks, it's New Jersey Globe. It's not everyone else. It's the New Jersey Globe with David Wildstein. Again, Joey Fox and all the great staff that they have there. And glad he's staying safe down there in South Florida. And certainly God bless him and all the great work that everybody does there as well. Folks, it's 7:25 here on the East Coast. Again, don't go anywhere. We got plenty still to come here on the program. Again, if you're just joining us live, like, comment, and share to all our great content here. And of course, if you're just joining us live, whether it's on Facebook Live or StreamYard, on the Jersey First YouTube page, whether it's on SoundCloud, Spotify, also on Instagram Live, on Twitter Live, as well as Twitch, and on LinkedIn, folks, we appreciate you keeping it right here with us on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, I keep saying it all the time. And again, if you're just joining us, again, happy Halloween week to everybody. As you can see, we're all themed out on the show here on StreamYard. And again, I loved Halloween this past weekend. Shout out to Zeppelin Hall Beer Garden in downtown Jersey City, along with the Ashford, two wonderful venues in downtown Jersey City. And for those of you that check out my social media, I dressed up as the 45th and soon to be the 47th president. And believe it or not, tons of people were all about Fernando Uribe and my costume. And I got to tell you, a lot of people said, hey, I went to vote early this week and I went to vote for you. And I was like, oh, and I was just like, I appreciate it. Again, go vote early, vote as early as you can, because early voting is great because it is voting early. I mean, I was kind of just really getting the impersonation down packed. But again, folks, in all seriousness, happy Halloween week to everybody. It's my favorite time of year. It's October. Scary movies are on all the time, obviously on all the streaming platforms, Hulu, Amazon Prime, HBO, Netflix, whatever. I love scary movies. I cannot get enough of them. So again, enjoy the rest of Halloween week. Folks, you don't want to go anywhere because it's time for final thoughts. And folks, let me just, mention this by saying that, it is Halloween week. So, it's important to, I guess, raise awareness and, remind everybody that, yes, it's Halloween. So why not talk about some clowns? And when we talk about clowns in New Jersey media, yes, folks, it's Tom Moran and Max Pizarro. Yes, folks, that never gets tired. And by the way, listen, I might have to revise that video because I gotta tell you, I never really used to like Terrence McDonald, but he's won me over. Good reporting with the New Jersey Monitor and the great staff that they have there. I don't always like his opinion pieces, but I gotta tell you, when it comes to the New Jersey Monitor and their reporting, as opposed to like Insider NJ, Star Ledger, NorthJersey.com, the Bergen Record, NG.com, folks, again, so I'm going to have to sort of revise that little video there. Maybe, take Terrence McDonald out of there. Not as bad as I thought it used to be. So again, folks, I can concede things. I can admit when I have to maybe modify something or change something. So again, folks, New Jersey's premier journalist is always adaptable and receptive to evolution, right? So, but having said that, folks, it is Halloween week, and let's talk about the clowns that we have in New Jersey media. So again, let's go into, and obviously, folks, I'm not going to sort of read you the article, the columns. I was in Madison Square Garden yesterday with some great friends there for the capacity crowd of over 20,000 people to see an all-star lineup. And I get it that one comedian with an off-color joke, it was a bad joke. I get it. And I understand that people like Teresa Ruiz, right, and others, Wilda Diaz are all up in arms. And of course, folks, leave it up to Maxi Pizarro when it comes to virtue signaling or making sure that, hey, we gaslight people. Because, again, with 8 days to go, let's make sure that people, vote against their self-interest, because we need to be outraged. We need to be offended, right? Because that's exactly what the left and progressives and woke fools live on. Right. And I wrote some notes today because I didn't want to forget them. And again, folks, everything on this show is organic. There's no teleprompter. I'm not reading anything. Everything is spontaneous, organic, okay, and very insightful. But I had to write some things down just to sort of look at what's going on. And obviously, folks, we had a great all-star lineup yesterday at Madison Square Garden, from Elon Musk to Tucker Carlson to the future Vice President J.D. Vance to former First Lady and the future First Lady Melania Trump to Eric Trump to Donald Jr., to Vivek Ramaswamy, to Dana White, to the immortal Hulk Hogan. Great lineup of individuals that headline Madison Square Garden, right? And I get that everybody on the left wants to be all triggered today about one joke that, let's be honest, kind of a mediocre comedian made yesterday. Again, if you're not familiar with him, obviously, Tony Hinchcliffe, it was one of the comedians at the recent Tom Brady roast on Netflix, which I'm sure many of you enjoyed, whether you're on the left or on the right. I'm sure you enjoyed it, right? But never mind national Democrats, right? Or even statewide Democrats in New Jersey, right? But the left and progressives, right? What they've become, folks, is masters of gaslighting and emotional manipulation. Again, and Max Pizarro leads the way there, okay? As a cowboy, I'm kind of offended that, Max Pizarro dressed up as a cowboy, because let's be honest, like, if you ever know Max Pizarro or ever run into Max Pizarro, he's like one of the least masculine guys you'll ever run into. So being a cowboy is kind of insulting our intelligence, right? So to get all offended about bad comedy, folks, what's bad comedy, let's be honest, is Max Pizarro trying to get you to believe that he's a real journalist when he's just a propagandist, right? Okay. But again, it's sort of like being in this sort of toxic relationship, because what Democrats are failing to admit is that they're losing. They're going to lose in 8 days. So why not just run with the narrative, push it to sort of emotionally manipulate Puerto Rican voters into supporting Kamala Harris? Yes, folks, it was a bad joke. Comedians sometimes make them. Now, what's interesting, though, about Max Pizarro and Teresa Ruiz and Wilda Diaz, anybody else who wants to get offended, right? Like, I don't know, like Uncle Dave, David Cruz, or Maria Rodriguez-Gregg, or anybody else, right? That wants to get all offended. Okay. It's a bad joke. Sure. And I was there in the building. It wasn't well received. So guess what? The crowd wasn't a fan of it. Okay. It was very cringeworthy. Okay. Sometimes comedians make bad jokes. Is that what we're supposed to get out of yesterday's event at Madison Square Garden? For over 5 hours, we had intellectuals, elected officials, superstars, pop culture figures all talk to us about the disaster that is the United States of America right now under the Biden-Harris administration. But no, again, Max Pizarro would rather blow a load in his pants, because he's not doing it anywhere else, let's be honest, right? About what happened yesterday. And about how one bad joke by a guy who's not very funny is what you take out of yesterday's event at Madison Square Garden. Okay? Folks, I'm not that triggered. I'm not that soft. Okay? Unlike Max Pizarro and Teresa Ruiz, who seems to be more concerned with pronouns than property taxes as a Senate Majority Leader in New Jersey. Sweetie, oye, mi amor, hazme un favor. Get your priorities straight. I get it. It was a bad joke. Cool. I get it. But if someone was making fun of Colombians, Cubans, or Spaniards, I'm not going to sit there, I'll be sanctimonious and be triggered when grocery prices are so high, interest rates are so high, people can't buy homes, inflation is still suffocating Americans, fuel prices are still too high, we're giving billions of dollars to corrupt regimes like Ukraine, but this is what you want to hang your hat on. And again, folks, Max Pizarro is really good at gaslighting you because he wants you to distract you from the fact that his darling, Kamala Harris, is losing in 8 days. Okay? And when she loses, Maxie is going to, come up with whatever bullshit list of reasons that he has, because that's all he is. Let's be honest, folks. Max Pizarro and his brand of journalism is just simply spewing bullshit to you every single week. It's not real journalism. So again, for Max Pizarro to be offended by bad comedy, it's kind of interesting because when we think about his brand of journalism, folks, that's the epitome of bad comedy. Trying to get you to believe that he's really a journalist when he's masquerading as a propagandist. Right? That's the problem. Okay, yeah, he likes to masquerade as a cowboy, and again, the least masculine cowboy I've ever seen. But to try to get you to believe that he's really a journalist, folks, that's bad. Okay? But having said that, again, and as I said, what Teresa Ruiz, Wilda Diaz, Max Pizarro, and anybody else who's looking to get offended is, again, I'll write this once again, Democrats, the left, progressives, all the woke fools, again, they've become the masters of gaslighting and emotional manipulation. Okay? Yes, Tony Hinchcliffe, bad joke. Okay? And of course, all we're getting from a great rally yesterday was just a 30-second clip. And that pretty much summarizes the great energy and the enthusiasm about voting for Republicans in the state of New York and also in New Jersey. Right? Where somehow Max Pizarro and Teresa Ruiz and Wilda Diaz want to basically emotionally manipulate you into believing and trying to get, Puerto Ricans to vote for Kamala Harris when she's been a disaster, when she's been in the room for every major decision that Joe Biden's made these last 4 years. When asked a couple weeks ago on The View, right, by those propagandists, would you change anything of the last 4 years? And she said, not a single thing could come to mind. That should tell you everything you need to know. So again, folks, the people like Teresa Ruiz, Max Pizarro, Wilda Diaz, and everybody else who got offended yesterday, do me a favor. When you go to the supermarket and it asks you to pay, right, and I'm sure that $100 of groceries is nowhere near what it once was 4 years ago. But when you go to the touchpad, right, and it asks you how you're going to pay, I'm assuming that there's options, right? Cash, credit card, debit card. I'm assuming based on these people that another option on the keypad is going to be, oh, selective moral outrage. I'm sure you can pay your grocery bills with that, right? Because that's what really matters. 8 days to go. And people like Max Pizarro, again, will not have a problem with this visual, right? Where people have literally continued to keep calling Donald Trump a fascist or Hitler. But this sort of comedy or this sort of art or, artistry or creativity, yeah, that's okay. Folks, I can tell you, I've searched Max Pizarro's Twitter and Facebook in his columns. Not once did Maxi ever object to this. Folks, this is downright despicable. But what do you expect? When I think about what's despicable, I think about this, and I think about Max Pizarro. Because again, it's that sort of selective moral outrage that Max Pizarro lives on. Okay? Other than just being in his house all day, because does he really do any work? Right? Okay. And by the way, and I'm sure maybe Uncle Davey is going to opine on this too. By the way, Davey, okay? Yesterday, George Lopez was at a Kamala Harris rally and made some really demeaning, made one demeaning joke about Mexicans. Is there going to be any outrage about that? Are you going to go on some hunger strike because that happened? Well, if anyone would benefit from a hunger strike, it's David Cruz. But that's a topic for another day. Okay? But again, if it's left-wing comedians, left-wing humor, oh, that's okay. But you want to get your panties in a bunch, ladies, and Max Pizarro wants to blow a load in his pants about one bad joke yesterday. Listen, it was a bad joke. Let's move on. Is that going to pay your grocery bills? And I get it for someone like Max Pizarro who makes $100,000 a year. Cool. It doesn't hit him in the pocket, but for regular, everyday people who work for a living, I know that's difficult for Max to process. Since Max doesn't work, he stays at home all day, scratches his ass, maybe publishes 3 columns a week, and then he subjects other reporters to go up and down the state to do real reporting, like Fred Snowflake. Okay, so maybe grocery prices or the cost of gasoline doesn't really hurt Max Pizarro in the pocket. Well, again, why would gasoline hurt him when he doesn't drive it? The lazy bastard doesn't leave his house. So maybe it doesn't hit him the way it does other people, right? But in a climate where, again, folks, we've seen the disastrous policy of the last 4 years. And if you're going to use what happened yesterday as an excuse to be well, I just got to vote for Kamala Harris. Folks, you weren't voting for Republicans to begin with. You're just looking for an excuse to vote for a really bad candidate. For a woman that never won a primary, for a woman that never won a single vote to become her party's nominee. But Max Pizarro and all the other clowns at Insider Energy want to lecture you about democracy. John Van Vliet, Alan Steinberg, Jay Lassiter, Alan Levin. Again, these clowns want to lecture you about democracy when their candidate is the furthest thing from democracy. When she wasn't elected, she was selected. It's a big word for the clowns at Insider NJ. You might want to look that up and see what it consists of. Okay? So again, if you want to get offended about a bad joke yesterday, cool. Nobody was laughing in that building. I was there. It was cringeworthy. 30 seconds later, we moved on to something else. Okay? But if that's what you want to hang your hat on, God bless you. But I can't take you seriously when it comes to voting either. Because again, with 8 days to go, if you want to keep voting against your self-interest, all in the name of, being outraged and triggered by bad comedy. Again, folks, when you think about bad comedy, that's Max Pizarro, because he's trying to make you believe that he's really a journalist. And let's be honest, he's masquerading as one, because we all know he's a propagandist, among other things too. Speaking of clowns, as you can see there, obviously the clown's working. And, I kind of figure when we think about Max Pizarro and Tom Moran working, the clown in the middle of the page, I think best summarizes what they look like working at home. But Tom Moran, another useless human, just like Max Pizarro, who earns over $100,000 a year, again, would like you to believe a new story. Right? And he gets you to talk about Tom King Jr. Right? And he tries to get you to believe about, for example, on abortion, King gets the spanking he deserves. Interesting choice of words there. Is there something you want to tell us, Tom? I mean, I know you're 87 and, I get it. You still like to get spanked. Is something you want to tell us maybe? I don't know. Maybe something you want to come clean about? I mean, it's your business, bro. Whatever you do behind closed doors, I mean, hey, but I wouldn't exactly use that word. But if that's the word that's up, really at the forefront of your mind, I mean, maybe there's something you want to come clean about. I don't know. We'll see. But in any event, obviously, Tom Moran decides to, I'm not going to read you the whole column. I don't want to put you to sleep, folks. Again, I value traffic on this show. And by the way, thanks again to David Wildstein. Really kind words. And again, there's a reason why this show does well, folks. Averaging 10,000 views a week and obviously peaking at 14, 15. Last week was 19,000 and counting. But for the haters out there, yeah, this isn't real journalism or nobody watches this show. Yeah, okay. Yeah. How are your numbers doing, by the way, folks? Okay. So he writes, Tom Kane spoke at Temple in Bridgewater Tuesday night and make the case that his Democrat opponent, Sue Altman, is an extremist on the issue of abortion. It didn't go well at one point. A man in the audience interrupted him, shouting, quote, "That's not true," according to a recording of the event, confirmed by a witness. He and four others who joined him were immediately told to quiet down. Thank God. We kind of want to hear people talking, not just shouting over each other. This race, the only nail biter in New Jersey this year, may hinge on the issue of abortion. Now, of course, again, I don't want to sort of go into this, but again, this is the problem with people like Tom Moran. They weaponize abortion and reproductive rights in a state where it's not consequential. I'm going to say it again for everybody out there at home that maybe struggles with reading comprehension, that struggles with reading case law. Again, and when we think about people that struggle with reading, again, we can look at Max Pizarro and Tom Moran. I'm going to say it again for everybody in the back. In the summer of 2022, the Supreme Court, by a 6-3 majority, nullified Roe versus Wade in the Dobbs decision and said, let's relegate it to the states. Again, I know Tom Moran's like 87 years old, so he probably doesn't remember taking U.S. history and reading about the Bill of Rights. But in the Bill of Rights, in the 10th Amendment, it talks about federalism. And in federalism, it's the epitome of defining states' rights, where, again, powers not allocated by the federal government, again, are allocated to the state. Right? Okay. It's states' rights. So if they want to govern on reproductive rights in Tennessee, in Arkansas, or Texas, how they see it, that's their right. That's their prerogative. But here in New Jersey, again, people like Tom Moran and other propagandists in New Jersey, like Maxie Pizarro, Jay Lasser, Alan Steinberg, Alan Levin, okay, Charles Stile, Matt Friedman, and others that, again, seem to ejaculate all over themselves. And that's a horrible visual. But seem to blow a load in their pants about, oh my God, abortion and reproductive rights. I'm going to say it again. Access to an abortion to biological women, mothers, not pregnant people, mothers, biological women, has been codified into state law. So if you're a woman that gets knocked up tomorrow, believe it or not, in New Jersey, you have up until the 9th month to make a decision to terminate a pregnancy. I think that's infanticide, but again, that's what the state legislature in New Jersey ratified. It's been codified into state law. What exactly is someone like Tom Moran bitching and moaning about? Okay. What exactly is the rest of the establishment media in New Jersey bitching and moaning about? To say nothing of the fact that Planned Parenthood gets millions of dollars of taxpayer subsidies to operate their clinics, aside from private donations, but taxpayer dollars go to pay for Planned Parenthood. So again, if you're a woman that gets knocked up tomorrow, guess what? You have access to get an abortion up until the 9th month in New Jersey. I don't agree with that, but that's what states' rights is essentially defined as. So when I hear men and women in New Jersey politics or media bitching and moaning about, oh my God, look what they're doing in Tennessee, in Arkansas, do me a favor. Take your sorry asses to Tennessee, to Arkansas, to Kentucky, to other states, work on campaigns, and get those legislators out of office and replace them with other ones. But in New Jersey, you don't have to worry about that. Case in point, ladies, it's NFL Sunday Funday season. It's the baseball playoffs. The NBA is back. The NHL is back. UFC pay-per-views are out there. You can watch WWE PLEs. Okay? So you can literally go out partying Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And for a lot of you ladies out there, guess what? You wake up after a drunken escapade of a weekend and you wake up next to a guy you don't particularly care to wake up next to. Guess what? You can go to any CVS, Duane Reade, or Walgreens. Okay. And for the haters out there, you can go and get some ointment for the burn about how good my traffic is and how yours isn't. Right? You can go and buy a Plan B. I know what they look like. I've had to buy plenty in my adult life, and they're right behind the counter. Thankfully, they've gone down in price where they used to be $50 plus tax. Now they're in the 30s. So thank the Lord. Okay. So they're available there. Okay. After a weekend of drunken escapades for Sunday Fun Day or whatever else. So what exactly are you bitching and moaning about? About what exactly is infringed in New Jersey when it comes to reproductive rights? Again, folks, Tom Moran and the useless people at all the aforementioned news sites I just mentioned would want you to believe it's actually an issue in New Jersey when it's not. Okay. And when I look at these clowns, I mean, I can't help but laugh because it's like they're trying to fool you into believing that in New Jersey, for example, whether it's the 7th congressional district or really the other 11 congressional districts, that somehow reproductive rights is on the ballot. No, it's not. Okay. The Republican nominee for president has said he would not sign a federal abortion ban, and senators from the Republican Party and members of the House have said they're not interested in a federal abortion ban. So what exactly are you bitching and moaning about? I mean, folks, you would think Tom Moran. I mean, folks, I have ex-girlfriends that don't bitch and nag as much as Tom Moran. And that's saying something. I've dated some insufferable women in my life who have bitched and nagged incessantly to me. Okay. But Tom Moran, I think it kind of like just beats them by a mile. But Tom Moran will want you to believe that that's the issue to define Tom Kean under. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, Tom. What you're not entitled to is your own facts. And the reason that the Star Ledger and NJ.com continue to go down in circulation is because they allow you to continue this propaganda. They allow you to continue spewing this nonsense when we all know it's not an issue in New Jersey. You know what is an issue? Affordability, energy prices, cost of groceries, the impact that illegals are having on our communities. They're overcrowding our schools. They're destroying real estate in the communities that we live in. They're contributing to high crime rates in our cities. That's what's going on. But again, Tom Moran would rather have you get into a fit about reproductive rights. Folks, I mean, again, use some common sense here. I know a lot of you do. I know a lot of you practice common sense. I know a lot of you, when it comes to reading the Star Ledger, don't take it seriously, and neither do I. But in a race like the 7th congressional district, where you've had a freshman representative that has voted on the right side of issues, that's who you should be voting for. Okay? Sue Alman can escape her radical progressive history all that she wants. She wants to escape that past. That's fine. Folks, the internet doesn't forget, and neither do I. Okay? Sue Alman isn't interested in making your lives any better. She's happy to go and vote. And listen, she's foaming at the mouth to be the next member of the squad, let's be honest. Okay? But what have we learned about these rabid, radical anti-Semites and progressive leftists that really don't have a single policy that helps their districts? But that's who Sue Alman wants to be. And that's who Tom Moran wants to portray Tom Kean as, someone who's out of touch and unavailable. Yes, Tom Moran, listen, Tom Kean should do a better job with media. He should be more accessible. Fine. But folks, again, there's a clear choice at this election. There's a clear choice about what's on the ballot. Not pronouns, not woke nonsense, okay? Not catering to the alphabet mob, okay? But, for example, protecting women, protecting young girls when it comes to sports. That's not something Sue Alman believes in. That's not something that Tom Moran believes in. That's not something that Max Pizzaro believes in, or all these other left-wing journalists in New Jersey, okay? It's about quality of life. It's about bringing down the cost of food, the cost of fuel, making sure that we can have law and order back in our cities, that we can secure our border and make sure that, hey, by the way, again, I know Tom Moran took U.S. history a long time ago. He's 87, so he probably took it like over 70 years ago. But Tom, there's a section of the Constitution called Article 2, Section 2. It talks about preserving sovereignty. That's the responsibility of the federal government. Joe Biden hasn't fulfilled that oath of office. Neither is Kamala Harris. But Tom Ryan would rather have you fixated on abortion and reproductive rights when every other position he takes is as bad as the candidates that he endorses. Okay. So once again, folks, let's do our reading. 8 days to go. Early voting is underway. Mail-in ballots are underway. Folks, you have a choice. You can continue with the last 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, which has been a disaster, or you can go to recalling 2017 to 2021 when gas prices were lower, inflation was lower, interest rates were lower. Okay. The cost of everything was lower. Folks, data's there. Okay. The information is there. All it takes is a little reading. Okay. And unlike these clowns behind me, again, on this show, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to talk to you with that 4-syllable word again that these clowns and others struggle with. Wait for it. Integrity. I'll say it again. I'll speak slower for them. Integrity. Tom, I know you're a lost caser. You're 87 years old. I think you turn 88 this year, right? Or next year? I'm not sure. Do better, Tom. No one's buying this nonsense. Same thing with Max Pizarro. No one's buying your nonsense, guys. In a time when the choice is clear with 8 days to go. I don't have to tell you. You're living it. Your pocket feels it. Your communities feel it. You see it. You have eyes, folks. And as you're reading their nonsense, use those eyes and see what's going on around you. Folks, it's as clear as day. Let's be honest. When it comes to Halloween, yep, I'm excited about Halloween. But guess what? I had a costume on. I actually had to, put on makeup and, put on like a wig and everything because, that's having to put on a costume. That's having to make the effort to, be something I'm not. On Halloween week, well, Max Pizarro and Tom Moran, you don't have to try very hard because you're masquerading as journalists. Let's be honest. Everyone knows you and know you as just simply being clowns. And guess what? It's not a good look. But really, when is it ever for Max Pizarro and Tom Moran? And those are my final thoughts. Folks, before we call it a night, I want to thank once again the Union City Local PBA number 8 for partnering with me during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As this past Saturday night, during the day, into the morning, into the afternoon, we were proud to stand by the 49th Street Light Rail Station on Bergen Line Avenue here in North Hudson for the annual boot drive that I've been, partnering with when it comes to making strides against breast cancer, and certainly the Union City Local PBA number 8. I do want to thank Freddie Aranzazu and all the great men and women I got to work with on Saturday morning into the afternoon, staying on Bergen Line Avenue with the boots, giving out some great accessories, obviously, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and as well collecting donations. You'll be happy to know, folks, all donations do benefit the American Cancer Society. Of course, all proceeds from this year's fundraising for a professor's quest to save breasts, once again, to benefit making strides against breast cancer. We've been raising $63,000 since 2008. Again, folks, not just as a journalist, I'm always working, unlike some of my peers who don't do anything. I'm also doing things in the community. So I'm not just also a award-winning journalist. I'm an award-winning philanthropist. As you can see behind me, folks, again, I don't fit in this house with all these awards. Okay? But I don't do it for the awards. I do it to help and to make a difference. And that's what we're doing with the American Cancer Society. And once again, I want to thank Executive Director Danielle Buckler, who works with Making Strides for partnering with me every year and supporting a professor's quest to save breasts, once again, to benefit the American Cancer Society. Again, a shout out to all the great men and women associated with the Union City Police Department and the Union City Local PBA number 8 for partnering with me once again during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. If you're still interested in donating, folks, hey, you still can. Just go Google A Professor's Quest to Save Breasts 2024 on the Making Strides page. You can donate. And once again, your donation is safe, secure, and tax deductible. And folks, let's all do our part, not just in October, but all year round. And together, we'll defeat breast cancer once and for all. Thanks again once to the Union City Local PBA number 8 great men and women that I have the privilege of partnering with every single year. And that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank David Wildstein, the distinguished editor of the New Jersey Globe, for appearing tonight. I know he's very, very busy, but I got to tell you, folks, a guy that, again, I can't say, I'm deeply humbled. And, I'm not the most humble guy around. I'm deeply humbled by his kind words and his belief in my brand of journalism, which, by the way, folks, again, averaging 10,000 views a week, peaking at 14, 15, even as high as 20, 21,000 over this year. Folks, it's journalism that people believe in. I can't say the same for my peers in the establishment media. Once again, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube. And, of course, check us out on Spotify and SoundCloud. And, folks, I can't say enough again how privileged I am to get your support, how privileged I am to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It is Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday night, hosted by the incredible Elizabeth Nader, and brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Melillo and Stephen Rimbolo premiere every Thursday as well. And every Monday night, folks, check your local listings. Latest edition of Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. Folks, always remember, it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It's Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. Top Latino is voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine. Certainly, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media, because my level of honesty, folks, now more than ever, and we're seeing it, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is me, the generational talent and the most handsome face that runs the place. It's Fernando Uribe. Folks, happy Halloween. Please party responsibly. Enjoy yourselves. Send me some pictures. Check out my Instagram. Check out my Facebook. You'll love my Halloween pictures this year. Folks, again, take care of yourselves. Please party responsibly. Again, and even, in this bad economy under Biden and Harris, if you can afford some candy, hey, make sure you treat kids in your neighborhoods to some Halloween candy, trick-or-treating. Again, be safe out there to all the parents and kids. Enjoy Halloween, folks. It's the best time of year. And we'll see you next week here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, happy Halloween. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.